Hi and welcome back. We're ready for Module 2 now of our research paper process. And what we're going to take a look at is thesis creation. We're going to take a look at it in two ways. First, we're going to take essay questions and turn them into thesis statements. And then secondly, we are going to create a thesis just based on your research information. So come on in and we'll start the process again. Okay, first off, starting out at creating a thesis statement based off essay questions given to you by a teacher. The first essay question we are offered here is analyze how Ulysses S. Grant's alcohol use may have had an effect upon the nation's views of him. What we need to do with this is simply reword it with the thoughts we have, and of course we can always change our thesis later and we can make it what our paper actually proves once we find more facts, but we want to first off try to start with the base so we know what we may be proving to begin with, and then we can take a look later to see if that's truly what we did prove. So, analyzing his alcohol use. What I found in the research, looking at a lot of the good websites we had talked about in Module 1, is that his alcohol use was only really when he was bored, when he wasn't really active. But the nation did have some serious views that any time that he failed, it was based on the fact that he was drunk. So, what we're going to put for this is that though Ulysses S. Grant did not consume alcohol during times of war, or I'll say actually times of heated battle, any time that his soldiers faced defeat, the common people attributed the defeat to Grant being drunk. And this is something that definitely we can find, because a lot of the people that were actually below him, a lot of the people that were his subordinates, they kind of tried to take advantage of him, and what they wanted to do is get themselves in his seat, get themselves in his position. And so, since most people knew that he did like drinking once in a while, they would try to say that he had been drunk during campaigns that he had not had great success in. The second question we're going to take a look at: was Ulysses S. Grant truly an alcoholic, and how did his alcohol use affect his leadership? Now, from everything I've looked at, I cannot find that he is possibly really an alcoholic. Now, some people that were trying to make money off of him in books later after his life, and in some people that were trying to take his position, they may have considered him an alcoholic, but most authors do not consider him to be one. So I would say no, but the alcohol use did affect his leadership, because those people in high positions within government were always concerned with what he might be possibly doing when he had some free time. So we'll say with this, and the idea is, again, we're simply rewording the question to create our thesis statement. We'll put, though Ulysses S. Grant was not an alcoholic, his alcohol consumption did cause others to constantly be alarmed at what he might be doing in his free time, and always be prepared to demote him. That's what we'll start out with, and again, we can go back and we can change it if necessary, but that's truly what it was. Lincoln was always concerned, Edwin Stanton was always concerned, everyone was always worried about what Ulysses S. Grant might be doing, and if his drunkenness, or what they thought he might be doing in his free time and going and getting drunk. Not to say that he always did, because in the research he truly did not, but they're worried about that, and if he did do something wrong, they're worried about having to find someone else to replace him. So that's what we're going to go with to start with. Again, we can change it if we have to. Okay, with thesis creation, the next step in this process is going to be creating a thesis based off the information you gather, not based off any sort of question. Now you see the information I've gathered from a number of resources here. Some I've highlighted in different colors, but altogether what I've come up with is I've come up with main ideas through outlining to try to make sure I understood what I was going to do when I'm going into this paper writing process. And these 3 body paragraphs, as based on my outline, I'm going to create. The topics are that Grant did consume alcohol, sometimes heavily, but he did so in times of inactivity, not times of serious duty. The second body paragraph I'm planning out is that the myth of Grant as an alcoholic was perpetuated by his detractors, anyone he had a disagreement with, as well as anyone that can make a profit off of Grant's life or his character. And finally, that Grant was an imperfect leader, but he was a leader who acknowledged these flaws and worked for discipline in himself, and he would do the same with his army. Now, when it comes down to a thesis, I'll say here that, and again, this is just a working thesis, though Ulysses S. Grant did consume sometimes even heavily the issues concerning his army were largely perpetrated upon him by his detractors and anyone that could make a profit off of him. Whether through money or position. That is quite wordy. In fact, I could turn it into 2 sentences easily and have a 2-sentence thesis, but mostly I tend to consider it being the rule to try to make it 1, though it is long. And what I'm trying to do is capture here that Grant was considered by some to have been one to drink heavily, but in the end, these myths that he truly was an alcoholic, these were perpetrated by the people that have actually stated that he was, just because they wanted to gain some kind of profit off of his life. So that is one way we can take the information you gain and create a thesis out of it from scratch. And you're just starting with this. This is the working thesis. It is not something you have to go with in the end. You take a look at your paper in the end, and that's when you make your final decision what it's going to look like. Okay, what your job is going to be now with your partner is that you're going to be given first 5 essay questions, and I'm also going to give you a stance with which you would be writing that paper upon, and you're going to turn those 5 essay questions into 5 thesis statements. Also, then I'm going to give you some facts you're going to base your research off of, and you're going to not only just do the 5 questions turning them into thesis statements, but the information then on the second half of the assignment is going to be for you to then create a thesis statement from the information, basically what I would consider to be from scratch. You're going to do that with a peer collaborator. Do the activities, we'll see where you get to after that, and we'll meet together and move on.